Welcome back to the Fat and the Devious podcast. This will be part four, picking up after part three last episode.
Yeah. So let's move on
State already won.
to the Insurrection Act. Actually, no. Let's move on to whitehouse.gov. Okay. Okay, so this is by Donald Trump. It's declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America. I hereby proclaim America's sovereignty is under attack. Our southern border is overrun by cartels, criminal gangs, known terrorists, human traffickers, smugglers, unvetted military-age males from foreign adversaries, and illicit narcotics that harm Americans, including America.
I already don't like the fear mongering in that statement. Military age males, just any male between the ages of 18 and 45.
Yeah.
Just men. Men are entering the country.
Yeah, if you're 46, you're completely safe, but 45, yeah, there's a threat. This invasion has caused widespread chaos and suffering in our country over the last 4 years. It has led to horrific and inexcusable murders of many innocent American citizens, including women and children, at the hands of illegal aliens. Foreign criminal gangs and cartels have begun seizing... Also, just interrupt me if you have any thoughts on this. I'm just going to read most of this. Control of...
I'm looking up the crime rate.
The what? Oh, crime rate.
I'm looking up the murder rate. I want to see how bad it is.
Seizing control of parts of cities, attacking our most vulnerable citizens, and terrorizing Americans beyond the control of local law enforcement. Cartels control vast territories just south of our southern border, effectively controlling who can and cannot travel to the United States from Mexico. Cannot travel to the... Well, if he wants everyone out of the United States anyway, then why does he care if the cartels are controlling or filtering people out or not? He wouldn't care if it's on Mexico's side, hypothetically, from his perspective. Doesn't make sense. Hundreds of thousands of Americans...
He just said we had lots of murders in the past 4 years.
The murder rate has actually gone down. You compare the murder rate to the 80s, like Miami, for example. Miami has 800% less murders now.
So it spiked in 2020, and then went down. So it spiked in 2020, went up in 2021. It started to decline in 2022, went down in 2023, went down even further in 2024, and it's still going down in 2025. So it's not really a crisis.
Yeah,
it's just fear mongering. It was worse in the 80s, like you mentioned.
Hundreds of
It
thousands.
did go up in 2020 during the pandemic, but now it's going back down again.
Right. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have tragically died from drug overdoses because of illicit narcotics that have flowed across the southern border. This assault on the American people and the integrity of American... Also, has the whole narrative of drugs being smuggled across the border, is there any merit to that statement?
No, most drugs are brought in by U.S. citizens.
Yeah, and people in America...
But you can look that up and stuff,
And Americans can create their own drugs, and people will always find a way. You can really just, smuggle it across, oceans. You could... There's been...
if you were the cartel, who would you trust more? Some random homeless guy in Mexico trying to get into America to take your drugs? Or, a white American who's done it, hundreds of times successfully, taking his truck back and forth the border? They stop and check random Mexicans. They're always trying to catch these guys. They do send them because they're cheap. They're, small shipments. But the large shipments are, almost always U.S. citizens. And most illegal immigrants come in through airplanes. Well, not anymore. Now people are spilling into the border. But before the wall talk and stuff, most in 2016, most illegal immigrants were coming on airplanes and just running away.
All right, that's interesting.
Or overstaying their visa. That's a big one.
There is
they're
one case
here to work, and then they just overstay there.
There is one case I can think of, and that was there was some tunnel networks at one point. I think they're always going to find a way to smuggle drugs, one way or another. Or people will
the
make
key to the
America.
drug crisis is to stop buying them.
Yeah.
The cartel will always have billions of dollars if we keep buying it.
Yeah. I think what we should do, and Mexico is making efforts to stop the cartels. I think what we should do is help Mexico instead of pushing all of their issues over to Mexico and then eventually spilling back over to us. Why don't we just help Mexico against the cartels? That would solve a lot
Yeah,
of
like
issues.
Israel tried this. They tried to ignore the Palestine problem by just building a giant wall and building like reinforcing the defenses. Actually, a report came out just a couple days ago showing that the city, one of the towns that got attacked and slaughtered by Hamas, like the defense force in charge of it, had focused all their resources on reinforcing the wall and had taken the rifles away from the officers in the city because they thought they wouldn't need it. Like, oh, we're just gonna reinforce the wall. But you can't stop bad guys with a wall. They'll just get through eventually. And
Yeah.
eventually they did, and they went on a rampage and killed hundreds of people.
Yeah,
So
the wall is more psychological than it is actually defensive.
and the Great Wall of China didn't even stop the Mongols. They just went over it. The walls have never worked.
I think the only wall I
Honestly.
can think of that worked was the northern wall the Romans constructed in modern day England. Well, would be modern day England, but that is mainly significant. Like, I don't think that's significant really because of its military significance. It's mainly just shows just how good they were at construction. But I think what really made the Roman wall significant was because there was military bases all along the wall for defense. So I think that's what made it effective. Was there was a constant military presence at the wall. It's not like they just built a wall and then just let it be. So
Yeah, like what made the wall dangerous wasn't the fact that it was a wall that could just be hopped over. It was the fact that there was garrisons of troops all along.
they had the height advantage. Yeah, and the Romans were more smart about it. Rome was pretty advanced. The medieval times, Dark Ages, feudal society was a complete downgrade from Rome, and Library of Alexandria being burned was also below. Most progress during that time was either done in monasteries or either monasteries or mosques. So, and Christians and Muslims did exchange information as well. The first university was in a mosque, and all the Muslims were at the forefront of developing modern mathematics, that kind of stuff.
Well, another instance of
Geometry.
a wall I just remembered is that Athens, the way to get to it, it was like inland, but they had a really powerful navy. They weren't very good like fighting on the land, even though they had a big army. They had like a stream that like a river that went up to the city from the ocean. So what they did is they just built a wall around their city and a wall around the river that went all the way like flanking the sides of the river all the way down to the sea. And because like back then they didn't have good siege technology, nobody could like get through it. So like the only way to the city was through the water, and they had a giant navy. So that's one time a wall worked, but that was back then when people were.
So was
And
this
they
the
literally
wall
just-
over the ocean, like buoys with like ropes that would like what do you mean? Like, was it a wall on the ocean itself?
No, so like the river would lead up to the like entrance of the city, and like you'd ride boats into the city, and they had walls on both sides of the river, and that went all the way down and around the city. So like the entire city, like you couldn't get to it without going through the wall or just taking a boat down through that river. But Athens had the best navy, so you couldn't like go through the navy to get to them if you were an enemy. So like you couldn't attack the city directly, and you'd have to fling like corpses over the walls of the city or something. I don't know,
That's
and
interesting.
infect them with the diseases.
I'm going to go forward with reading. Hundreds of thousands of Americans
Just
have
keep going.
tragically died from drug overdoses because of the illicit narcotics that have flowed across the southern border. This assault on the American people and the integrity of America's sovereign borders represents a grave threat to our nation. Because of the gravity and emergency of the present danger and imminent threat, it is necessary for the armed forces to take all appropriate action against the action to assist the Department of Homeland Security in obtaining full operational control of the southern border. To protect the security and safety of the United States citizens, to protect each of the states against invasion, and to uphold my duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It is my responsibility as president to ensure that the illegal entry of aliens to the United States via the southern border be immediately and entirely stopped. As commander in chief, I have no more solemn duty than to protect the American people. So this seems like fear mongering to me personally, making it sound like illegal aliens are not just people fleeing South America because of the cartels. They're here to undermine our democracy, which is really recontextualizing why they're even here in the first place. Most people coming across the border just want asylum to get away from the cartels, not because they are the cartel themselves. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And the treatment of these migrants by putting the kids in the cages and sending migrants to Guantanamo Bay is just completely inappropriate response to people who are just looking for a safe place to live. And, we can always use more people in America, just more workers, more people. I mean, there's plenty of jobs for these people.
Trump trying to turn America into like an industrial powerhouse that produces literally everything.
Yeah, America could be a powerhouse for some things. I think tariffs on China could work, but I don't think we need to put tariffs on countries such as Canada, Mexico, Europe. I mean, there's just so many countries that don't need tariffs that it's just redundant that he's even trying to do it. But
It's because the unemployment rate right now is pretty low, so almost everybody has a job. We wanted to start producing literally everything in the entire world because we want to cut off the entire planet and make everything in America. We can't just magically like build stuff with people who don't exist. We need people to actually work in the factories and build the factories. So what we need to do is take in, I don't know, millions of immigrants, like if you want to do that. So it doesn't make sense to like kick them all
the
out.
thing is, a self-sufficient country, America being self-sufficient on paper sounds great. People want to be self-sufficient, but I don't think you can just do that all at once. I don't think imposing tariffs all at once solves that problem. If we wanted to go in that direction, first we impose tariffs on China, which is probably the country we benefit the most from cutting off. And we've already cut off Russia because, to a certain degree, under the Biden administration, oil trade was cut off with Russia because of the Ukraine-Russian war. And that's why people blame Biden for gas prices increasing, but really it was Putin's fault, not Biden. That's beyond the point. So I think he's just
The
jumping
Saudis' fault because they're the ones that raised their prices when we stopped buying from Russia. They raised their prices because they knew that we would have to buy it from them, so they just raised their price.
it's the
So it's the
economy.
Saudis' fault.
The economy is really hard to control, and it's not up to the president to determine that. You can't blame the president for the economy. I mean, you can in Donald Trump's case because he put in tariffs, and now they're basically insider investing because they just called off the tariffs. So the president can affect the economy, but the president can't control the economy. Affecting the economy is different than controlling it, and gas prices really can't be controlled by any president. They can be influenced. The president's going to affect gas prices, but there's no like legislation or there's no executive order that Biden could have just passed just to spontaneously just increase the price of gas. And the whole strawman argument was that Democrats were trying to increase gas prices to sell electric cars. Guess who's trying to sell the most electric cars now? Conservatives. So it's just a complete strawman argument. It's sidestepping. It is just. I mean, I shouldn't generalize. Not everyone believes that, but I've heard the argument before, and it's just stupid given now that Elon is the good guy according to conservatives, even though he's the guy selling electric vehicles, which is what they were against supposedly about 3 years ago, right?
The cognitive dissonance is kind of fun. It is really cool. It is funny to see like they hate electric cars as the devil.
Now, therefore, Donald J. Trump, sorry, I gotta get the middle initial. President of the United States of America, by the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Sections 201 and 301 of the National Emergencies Act, hereby declare that a national emergency exists at the southern border of the United States complete overreaction, if you want my opinion. And that Section 12302 of Title 10 United States Code is invoked and made available according to its terms to the Secretaries of the Military Department concerned, subject to the direction of the Secretary of Defense, to provide additional authority to the Department of Defense to support the federal government's response to the emergency at the southern border. I hereby declare that this emergency requires use of the armed forces in accordance to Section 301 of the National Emergencies Act, that the construction authority provided in Section 2808 of Title 10 United States Code is invoked and made available according to its terms to the Secretary of Defense, and at the discretion of the Secretary of Defense, to the Secretaries of the Military Departments, I hereby direct as follows. Section 1. Deployment of personnel and resources. The Secretary of Defense, or the Secretary of each relevant military department, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, shall order as many units or members of the armed forces, including the Ready Reserve and the National Guard, and the Secretary of Defense determines the appropriate support the activities of the Security of Homeland Security in obtaining complete operational control of the southern border of the United States. The Secretary of Defense shall further take all appropriate action to facilitate the operational needs of the Secretary of Homeland Security along the southern border, including through the provision of appropriate detention space. Oh, dang, appropriate detention space. That's probably why Guantanamo Bay got bigger recently.
Those are new beds or something.
Transportation, including aircraft, and we've seen this. We've seen migrants being transported over aircraft to be detained. And the reason they're doing this is because prisons are for profit in America. It's in our best interest to get as many people into the prisons as possible so that we can use their labor. It's not like we're operating prisons at a loss. We are operating prisons for profit, and prisons are operated by contractors, privatized companies, which benefit from people in prisons. And that's probably why the CIA was dealing drugs in low-income neighborhoods. And it just feels like there's a lot of evidence pointing towards a quota that's trying to be met within the prison system, which, with crime rates going down, poses an issue for the prison industry.
Especially with cannabis being legalized, dude.
Yeah.
I guess just to arrest random German immigrants. You've seen that. I was telling you about that. It keeps happening. They keep arresting random immigrants not even immigrants, tourists from like white countries like France and Germany. They're just coming to visit the country. They get arrested and they disappear and nobody knows where they go. They like disappear. And it's so bad that those countries have issued travel warnings to telling their citizens not to go to America or they could get kidnapped by the government.
It's crazy. They become unperson, like in 1984. A person doesn't exist.
He's not in the registry. Oh, it says he was released a week ago. Where is he? Oh, I don't know.
Yep. And it's the government. We can't do anything. They control everything.
They're like, oh, he was sent to a prison in Texas. They show up at that prison in Texas. Oh, we sent him to a prison in California. What? And they go to California. Oh, no, he's in Texas and Arizona. He's in a prison. They're just getting shuffled all around the country. I'm sure it's really expensive.
And here's a side note. There's illegal immigrants from Canada. There's a drug trade over Canada. In fact, I know of a story of someone who would smuggle liquor across the border as a job over the summer. No one ever talks about that, and that's the drug trade over the northern border. There's a northern drug trade, yet no one cares because there's no racial element to it. It's just because the whole southern border crisis is based in racism. That's what it comes down to.
Racism is really cool because it can make you ignore important things and focus on useless things.
Yep. It's crazy. Additional physical barriers. Secretaries of Defense and Homeland Security shall immediately take all appropriate action consistent with law to construct additional physical barriers along the southern border. Alright, I thought the wall was over. I didn't know we were still building the wall. Section 2 of this national emergency, the wall is still being built. It's interesting, but still a waste of tax money.
What you should do is build 2 walls. In between the 2 walls, they fill it with barbed wire. But if you climb over one of the walls, you have to swim through like 100 feet of razor wire to get to the other wall. Berlin Wall. Because the Berlin Wall was actually 3 walls. There was the outside wall, then there was the inner wall, and then there was a walkway for guards, and then there was a fence. There was another walkway, and there was another fence. So you climb over one fence, and there's a minefield that you have to run through. And there's a guard on a tower on the other side, so there's another fence. You have to run through that minefield and climb up that fence while all the guards can see you. And then there's another wall on the other side that all the Americans and Westerners can look at that blocks your view of all of that. There's the actual Berlin Wall people looked at was just to hide the real wall behind the wall.
Yeah.
It's behind a wall.
Post-World War II Germany is just insane. East and West Germany is just weird. I mean, the Soviets wouldn't give up Germany after the war. It's just crazy.
We just need to do something like that.
I say instead of building a wall, how about we put along the border a bunch of Culvers? Because Culvers is the worst restaurant ever, and migrants won't want to come into America because they'll see how many Culvers there are, and then they'll just turn around. Does that sound good?
Just build a bunch of trailer parks along the border.
Yeah. I'll build a bunch of Gamestops.
GameStop always try to sign you up for that weird GameStop thing.
I go to GameStop once a year. Maybe a few times a year. Just when I'm around one, I'm alright, let's see if they have some good Wii games, maybe, or some good Xbox games. They rarely do. I mean, sometimes you'll
It's
find a good
never.
deal. Rarely. They'll sell like Mario Kart Wii from like 2008 for like $40 or some insane price like that. It's crazy.
I bought a Wii game from them, and like for 10 times he asked me if I wanted to sign up for his GameStop like
Oh my gosh.
member program.
Well,
I said no. I said no. He's like, oh, but like you'll get $5 back. I'm like, no. He's like, but it's free. I'm like, no.
so they use
It,
your
like, it went
data.
on.
Well, I don't really blame them. They have to say that. It's just still annoying.
It's not his fault. I'm
No,
like,
it's not his
why
fault, but
did
it's
the
still
company
annoying.
want him to say that?
It's still annoying. So they can get your data and sell it. To the extent possible, the Secretaries of Defense and Homeland Security shall coordinate with any governor or state that is willing to assist with the deployment of any physical infrastructure to improve operational security of the southern border. Unmanned aerial systems. Oh boy. The Secretary of Transportation and the Federal Communications Commission shall consistent with applicable law, consider waiving all applicable Federal Aviation Administration and Federal Communications Commission regulations or policies, respectively, that restrict the Department of Homeland Security ability to counter unmanned aerial systems within 5 miles of the southern border. We're drone striking our own country at this point? What the heck? Like, or literally drone striking our own border. That's stupid.
I need to read that very carefully.
You want me to read it again?
Alright. Ensure that the use of foremost.
Unmanned,
That's insane.
unmanned aerial. Here's the nail in the coffin. Ability to count, respectively, that restrict. So they're waiving anything that would prohibit the Department of Homeland Security to counter unmanned aerial systems within 5 miles of the southern border. That means they are allowing the Department of Homeland Security to drone strike the border. Revision of
I
policies.
think that means they can shoot down any drones near the border.
Yeah, that includes artillery, right? I mean, they can just.
I mean, it would be like air defense artillery. So they're gonna have like Stinger missiles. No, probably not. Just dudes with shotguns standing at the border to shoot down drones.
Yeah.
Need be.
Revision of police policies and strategies. The Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Attorney General, shall take all appropriate action consistent with law to prioritize the impedance and denial of the unauthorized physical entry of aliens across the southern border of the United States, and to ensure that use of force policies prioritize the safety of and security of Department of Homeland Security personnel and the members of the armed forces. So basically, this is to ensure that no one is smuggling anyone across the border either. So whatever. And then revocation, proclamation 10-142, January 20th, 2021, termination of emergency with respect to the southern border of the United States and redirection of funds diverted to border wall construction is hereby revoked. So that must be something that Biden put up to stop wall construction, and now he's undoing that which prohibited border wall construction. So
I don't think it's gonna change anything. People already like hopped over it and slid in between it.
You just dig under it. You can walk around it. Doesn't change much. And it's the cartel. Cartel is pretty powerful. Within 30 days of the date of this proclamation, the Secretary of Defense shall submit to the President through the Homeland Security Advisor a report outlining all actions taken to fulfill the requirements and objectives of this proclamation. All right, so within 30 days, Homeland Security is supposed to get back to Trump about what they can do on their end. And then this is the part we've been waiting for. This is what started all the April 20th conspiracies. Within 90 days of the date of this proclamation, that will be April 20th, the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of the Homeland Security shall submit a joint report to the President about the conditions at the southern border of the United States and any recommendations regarding additional actions that may be necessary to obtain complete operational control of the southern border, including whether or not to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. And we will get to the Insurrection Act in a minute. Just keep in mind, the Insurrection Act mainly means deploying a constant military presence at the border.
Early 1984.
And I don't know if that is a violation of the Third Amendment. And the Third Amendment is harboring troops in quartering troops in homes. I don't think. I mean, it's a similar principle. The military should not be in a domestic setting. That is where the police are supposed to get involved. And I'm pretty sure the military shouldn't be involved. We have the Department of Homeland Security. And we have ICE and that kind of stuff that are deployed to the border. I don't think the military should get involved. I mean, I don't think we should get involved.
Of how that could apply to the whole country, I just thought of something.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And I I don't
We'll
think
get
we
to
should be really doing any of this to the border, but I don't think the military needs to get involved at all, even if we were going to. It's stupid. And ICE is also terrible. I mean, ICE has been going after just random people. General provisions, nothing in this proclamation shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or the functions of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating the budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This proclamation shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This proclamation is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit substantive or procedural enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents of or any other person. A witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 20th day of January in the year of the Lord 2025, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 249th. Okay, that's all of it. So, what do you think about that whole national emergency declaration by Trump? This was on January 20th, by the way. So we're a bit late.
I think it's obviously it's basically an overreaction. It's like meant to like fuel fear and like make people think that like our country is under siege from like military-aged men and bringing drugs that people in the country want. Oh no, they're forcing us to buy the drugs that we all want apparently. Oh no.
Yeah, it's like
honestly the way to stop the cartel from having power is to either stop buying all the drugs or just sell drugs legally in America. And like I know people think that sounds really bad, but you could just put signs saying this will destroy your life. Just like you could like have it as an option at the store, and it would be a lot safer. Nobody would get laced drugs if it's just like sold in a store. It's like, oh, like we could have like medical like drug dispensary, like the medical marijuana. You could just have like this is the cocaine store. You come in here, and if you have money, you can buy cocaine and ruin your life. Like the cartel would have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
The cartel wouldn't be making billions of dollars to fund like militias to go execute people. They wouldn't be able to go. There'd be no more people cut in half with chainsaws. Like if you just sold it normally, there isn't really a point to the government controlling the substances.
One thing I would have meant is keeping public intoxication. Sometimes people who are on drugs are a threat. So even if drugs are legalized, public intoxication should still be illegal to ensure they're not threatening anyone else. It should be their own private endeavor if they choose to pursue those substances. Is that fair to say?
Of course. Like don't do cocaine in the street. You're gonna get hit by a car.
Or bath salts in a roundabout intersection.
I do understand that probably make it so like kids would be able to get it because like they'd have like one of their friends who's like a legal age go to the store and buy. I don't know, what is it? What do people do? Like
the plug,
meth.
The plug.
Yeah, you go to the meth store. People do that with
alcohol, and it's illegal. That can be prosecuted, and it's up to the parents to raise their kids to not do that. I mean, if you've raised your kid correctly, they will not want drugs. I mean, if you were a good parent, your kid's not going to wake up one day and decide to go to the meth store and have his friend buy him meth and destroy his life. You can already do that. You can already get meth. I think making it easier to get will like maybe they could even do more research. Like research could be done into these drugs. And like if it's all of it's legal, I'm sure they'd find like better drugs that are like less dangerous. Like like if LSD,
like if it becomes
LSD is used in psychiatry more and more. LSD treatment is becoming more and more of an option. It's really promising. Yeah, it's destigmatized. It's not like MK Ultra anymore. It's a real thing. But yeah, overreaction is a good way to say it. I think it's just fear mongering, and I think legalizing drugs is an interesting idea, kind of a libertarian idea.
No, that's libertarian. Oh no.
I mean, modern libertarians, their only idea is their wallet, but libertarians, like in theory, have more of a point. In theory. Yeah, it's libertarians these days are just extreme conservatives. So
mega racist. Let's read the Insurrection Act before we comment on like how we think it'll be applied.
This will be the conclusion of part 4.